Good morning. I've got another hand to go through. Played this a few days ago. We don't get past the turn, or we don't even see the turn. But I want to check out GTO for a few things. Basically, my flop play here. So we had a very loose player. He's played over 50% of his hands. From the small blind, open raise to 3 big blinds. We get to 2 callers, and then it's to me, and I'm sitting in a good position. And in this case, typically I would just fold. It says button versus EP. I could definitely call, but with two other opponents, I actually don't like calling. I don't like calling because I'm playing speculative. It could be easy for one of these players to take a stab at it, and I felt like it would be a stronger play if I went ahead and raised. And if I get heads up versus one opponent, that's great. If they all fold, that's great. But I don't want to take this hand multi-way because I'm probably only going to win it maybe at best 20% of the time, 25% of the time, just kind of depending on their calling range. So this player's tight. I figure he's going to probably be calling with pocket pairs, maybe a speculative hand, maybe a suited ace. I don't think he calls with those. This player, I don't know a whole lot, but he's played 23% of the hands. I'm going to assume that he's like a weak speculative holding. Again, if either of these two players call, I'm going to put them on a decent pocket pair, queens, jacks, tens, maybe nines. I think they fold like twos, threes, fours, fives. Is my guess. I think they fold all of their like offsuit aces and so forth. This player is the unknown, and this is the player that I looked and he hasn't folded. So I thought, well, I think this is a decent hand, speculative hand. So I want to make a move. So I'm going to first show you button versus EP. This is my 3-betting range. So you can see it's a really tight 3-betting range. And then this is my calling range. But this kind of assumes just one player in there. So what I did was went ahead and added some hands, and I'm going to definitely be, I think what you would say a merged range, big hands, small hands, and I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too worried about polarizing because this guy's so loose. It's possible that he's going to call with a wide range of weaker hands, and I'd rather have, some strong hands, or mostly strong hands, versus his calling range. So I think this is kind of the hands that I would call with. I think even 8s and 9s you could probably call, you could probably raise. And I think that those would be hands where it says, where I look at it and say, okay, I'm going to try to take a stab at this. And, if I get called and I flop trips, that's great because chances are I'm going to be getting paid for it. But like if I limp or if I call 3 bets and one of these blinds raise, I'm going to probably have to fold to them, especially if it gets called someplace else. So I tried a 3-bet here. 3-bet to 15 big blinds, pretty big, and bill a 9, then 4 bets. And I think this is probably where I went wrong. I think I should have just folded. Do I think he's going to be 4-betting with his entire range? No, I don't think so. But I think he's going to be a heavy 4-bet with, the aces, suited aces, probably off-suited aces too. I mean, for him being so loose, a player like this who's loose and very aggressive is probably looking at, I've got the ace. That makes it less likely that I have the ace. If the ace flops, I'm going to hit it. And it may be something more like this, something strong. So we could look at that, and then it comes back to me. And I think here, this is where I should have just folded it. I think versus that, now we took our we took our chances there. And now we really should have tightened up and just gone ahead. And I think we would probably shove with those ranges, kings plus and probably queens plus. I think you can get calls with these. I think probably queens I would probably just call too. So I think I'm going to be calling with these versus this entire range. And then we see the ace high flop. And what's why I want to look at this hand is because he checked me, and I have any sort of backdoor draws at all, none. It would just be pure bluff. And could I pull it off? So I'm curious to see what GTO might predict. My guess is versus this range, GTO is probably telling me that I should check here. So let's check it out. So here it is. If he played GTO, villain should be betting. Should be betting most of the time. He checks, 2% of the time. And if he checks, then it looks like I should be checking behind with everything. Let's change his check. Let's say he checks. I don't think this changes anything. Let's say he checks all of those as well. It takes a little bit longer. All right, so he's checking, and then I should still check. And again, not surprising, because I do have some hands that beat other hands. There's absolutely no draw whatsoever. So I think this was a hand that I got myself into trouble in. Not necessarily the pre-flop raise. I think I'm okay with that. I have a hand that is playable, but I think it's horrible to play multi-way. I took a stab at it partly to see would he ever fold 3-bet, and he hasn't. I don't know if he's ever folded for the rest of the session. I figured he would fold because he is a tight player, and I assumed the blinds would fold. And I was looking at picking up a hand. Board didn't really come favorable to me, so that works. But the initial 3-bet I think is okay. We can mix it up. We don't have to always 3-bet. We don't have to always call. But I think in this case, I think that's probably okay. He does have a pretty wide range, and I'm looking at getting him to fold a lot. I do think he would be folding a lot. But once he 4-bet me, I think then I should have just let the hand go. I don't care how, the odds that I was getting, because right now I have to call. Well, I'm getting, a little over 4 to 1. I need 20% equity. I called because I felt like I did have some 20% equity, but I was probably overestimating a lot of my equity. Because once he 4-bets, I think I'm probably like way behind to pocket pairs, overs, and I don't have a really good feel for what he does. Now, prior to this hand, I believe, he's called a 2-bet from the blinds with ace-3 off. He's called 3-bets out of position with 4-3 suited. So he is playing a very wide range. And that's where I looked at it and said, okay, well, if he has all those, let me 3-bet. Maybe he's going to fold some of those. But poorly played versus that 4-bet. And then I should have just checked behind on the flop. That was another mistake. So it's kind of funny how you make a mistake early in the hand, and then that just magnifies the mistakes later in the hand. All right, so this is a makeup hand. Second hand for the day, and I'll get that posted, and you can look tomorrow for another.